Hi, my name is John Tong, and I'm going to talk about early indicators of the effect of the global shift to remote work on people with disabilities. I'm a member of the Ability Research Team, and our group explores how to make technology accessible to people of all abilities. So my position is that people with disabilities are the extreme users that can help us design remote collaboration technologies that are better for everyone. And the way we explore this is a study that involved 25 interviews of people with disabilities who regularly telework, that is at least weekly, and this happened even before the pandemic response. But since the interviews occurred in March and April of 2020, and all the participants were in the United States, it occurred during the first month of the pandemic response. And so it gave us an early indication of what their reaction was like. It's a qualitative study, so the data could be used to explore other areas of interest. But this chart shows the distribution of folks that we talked to, people who are blind or low vision, with limited mobility or dexterity, people who are neurodiverse or deaf or hard of hearing, and those with chronic health issues. And so you see there's a spread of people of various abilities that we heard from during the interviews. So I want to share just one example from our findings. I encourage you to look at the paper for more details, but that's the question of not sharing video when you're in a meeting. So people with disabilities have a range of reasons why they choose not to share video while they're in a meeting. The first quote talks about someone who is blind and low vision, who obviously being visually impaired, the camera doesn't mean very much to them. And so they don't turn on their video or maybe even call in on the phone typically. And the second quote talks about someone who's neurodiverse who says, they have to be in the right frame of mind to be able to focus on video in a meeting. People who are neurodiverse often need to manage the cognitive effort that they're expending in a meeting, and so may choose to not turn on their video or even cover the video window so they don't have to spend the effort to manage what's going on. Now, but the thing to point out is that when you turn off your video, the digital representation in our remote collaboration tools goes to something like this, where if you have a profile picture, maybe you would show that picture, but otherwise you have a static blank screen. And if you don't have a picture, maybe you'd only show these generic initials, or if you're calling in on the phone, you get this very generic phone icon. And so this representation of people who don't share their videos in online meetings is a very static and could be interpreted as being not very engaged in the meeting. And that creates kind of a barrier that they need to overcome in participating in the meeting, especially after the pandemic response, where there was more social pressure to turn on video. This first comment that talks about people wanting to have video, and so you have to be camera ready more. And the second quote talks about, being on Teams meetings. Everyone wants that human connection. So there's an ask that we should all have our video on, even though for this person who's blind or low vision, that's not what they would normally do. So design implications is maybe we can create more engaging avatars for when people choose not to share their video. So perhaps we could augment like an audio representation the way that we're familiar with on radio programs or other audio editing tools, and use the camera as a sensor to perhaps detect the emotional expression that's going on and use that to modify the audio signal so that you get a more dynamic and lively and engaging representation of participation even when not sharing the video. Or there are other sensor-driven avatars. Some of you may remember Avatar Connect back in 2012, and a recent startup has come up with something called Lumi Live, which has these avatars that mask what's going on behind the scenes and present an image of being fully engaged in a meeting. And I think now that we're all working from home, we can relate to these scenarios where things may be going on in the background that we don't really want to share with our collaborators, but we do want to stay fully engaged in the conversation. And so I hope this shows you some example of how people with disabilities can help identify design implications to make remote work technology better for all of us. Thank you.